Rocky. Rocky.
What day is it? It's Tuesday.
Rocky. He's in the glass warehouse.
What's the date?
We have
On his phone.
a little bit of. Do we have a latency? Let's find out.
Carlos, line 2.
What is
Carlos,
today's date?
line 2.
Does anyone know?
You are live. We're just doing a test, though.
Okay.
You want to let people know this is a test?
Hello, everybody. Welcome. We're getting ready for our Facebook Live demonstration. We're doing a little bit of a test before we actually go online in about 20 minutes or so, if I'm reading the watch correctly. How's everybody doing? Can you hear me?
Can I hear you?
Can you hear me?
No, because the mic is here, bro.
Oh, okay.
Let me see. Can you bring it to him?
Sí está al aire ahorita.
Can you see the mic? Test. Mic test. Speaking to it.
Test.
Put it under your shirt.
Okay. Hello. Hello. Can you hear me? This is just a test. Hello.
It's gonna go under your shirt.
Okay. Let it go. Should I do my Adele performance?
Yeah.
Hello.
This is where you,
It's me.
you can audition here. You never
A
know.
live audition. Okay. Let me finish this in my hand and I'll.
Mic is good? Is that live on Facebook too? Or what?
Yeah. I will see you guys latency.
Vamos a hacer.
Huh?
Obviously.
Yeah. You're still alive, Michael, by the way. No, you're okay here. The camera's in front of him.
Somebody may recognize you, Rocky. You better run. We're still testing, by the way.
Yes.
Can you hear me? Or do I need to wear the
Yeah, I was gonna say
microphone?
like
It's not the first time my voice has fallen on deaf ears.
to say sometime anything if you need to fluff.
Actually, we've done
They already fluffed. The
Yes.
last time
Let me try to increase the volume.
Yes.
Let me see. Filters, properties,
Yes, that's what I'm
audio advanced properties, desktop audio, Elgato. We're going to increase by 5 dBm. Audio monitoring.
No, it's
Elgato. Test, Michael.
Hello, testing.
Oh, wait, Mike, the mic's over here. Hold on. Testing. 1, 2, 1, 2, testing.
Testing. 1, 2, testing. Okay. I'll just do that temporarily. Okay. Yes, es un prueba. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Yeah.
Did you?
Yes.
Already? Oh, okay.
Can you hear me? I'm going to do my Facebook performance, my audition. Mm-hmm. Hello. It's me. Okay, all right. What do you want me to sing? Whose birthday is it? Happy birthday to Tina. Happy birthday to Tina. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to Tina. Am I loud enough? Am I speaking at full voice? Take it down a third of an octave? I can. I just don't want to walk away with it.
The volume is low, guys.
Volume is low?
We're increasing it more.
I am loud.
Increasing by 3 dBm.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Sing a little song.
What should I sing?
Or just say you're gonna be doing a live.
Okay. All right, we're getting ready for our Facebook Live program, and the tech guys here are doing a little bit of a test to see what the volume is like. So I'm just sort of speaking nonsensically into the microphone. But as I said earlier, this is not the first time my voice has fallen upon deaf ears. Bump bump. Okay. How was that? What's that?
They say can't hear.
They can't hear.
They can't hear.
I know, I'm increasing volume more. I just gotta increase it without blowing people's speakers out. It's really tough.
Well, some people say loud and clear,
That's okay.
and then some people say can't hear. Not loud enough.
Okay, I'm testing again, checking a volume check. Can people hear me? Can people say hello?
Loud and clear, says Joy.
Joy can hear me loud and clearly. Thanks, Joy.
Alright, we're going a little bit higher gain. Alright, Michael?
Yes. Test. 1, 2, 3. Test. 1, 2, 3.
Very soft.
We need to do a NASA liftoff. 5, 4,
Oh, that's right.
3,
Okay, your voice is almost hitting red.
2,
Yeah, it's loud and clear.
1. We have liftoff.
Oh, we're good.
Okay,
Let's
Houston,
go.
we're good. We still have about 15 minutes.
Places. You good? It's increasing right now in the live video.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alright, we're good.
We're
You're
good.
all right.
Okay, we're good.
I can hear
This
you
is
just fine.
this is what we're going with. So we've got about 15 minutes, folks. So just hang around.
You just want, we can just leave this stream going because people are already tuning in. So. You don't have to smile.
But
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know, Michael. Just tell them a story.
Let's see.
I think it's
All right, people, we're gonna start soon, so chill on out.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Here I am again. This is Michael Segura coming to you live via Facebook from CRAFTEX here in Houston, Texas. I hope everybody's having a good morning. I think we probably wanted to wait a couple of seconds to see and make sure that we had quite a few people log on and whatnot. So how are we doing? I'm just going to take a cue from these guys, but maybe before I start the presentation, I'm going to start talking about some of the product that we're going to be using. So as you can see, I have a mantle behind me, a beautiful marble mantle, granite marble mantle, and we're going to, I've already placed a garland, one of our beautiful 9x18 Rutland garlands. It's R-U-T-L-A-N-D is the label on it, 9x18. This has no lights on it, and this is one of my favorite garlands to actually work with because it has such a beautiful mix of different pines. It's got a nice assortment of different pines on it, different colors, different textures. So it's an interesting garland to work off of. So I already have it placed on the mantle. I've got half of it fluffed on the left-hand side here, just so you can see what a garland should look like when it's actually fluffed, because you actually want to take the time to make sure that your garland and all of your products look their most optimal best. So as I said, I've done half of it here. I'm going to go ahead and work on fluffing the other half of this garland. And really, all that it takes here is just a matter of going through and lifting and separating and pulling and tugging and just making that flat garland, because I really did just pull it out of a bag. So this really makes a beautiful base. So as I said, this is the 9x18 Rutland, and it comes with lights. It comes in a 14-inch wide and a 19-inch wide, lighted or not lit, non-lit. So as you can see, now you have a nice fluffy garland. And before I continue with the construction of the garland and all the decor that I'm going to put on it, I want to showcase some of the items that I'm actually going to use. One of the items is actually this 140 millimeter hemp ball that's covered in rope. Basically, it's covered in natural material, and it has a little bit of glitter on it as well. It's more of an iridescent glitter. It's not heavily glittered, but there's just enough glitter on it to make it sparkle. The other item that I'm going to be using is a 200 millimeter ball. So this is a very soft powder blue, which is very much in fashion these days. One of the other items I'm going to use in terms of balls are the 140 millimeter. That's a soft gold, a matte gold. And again, this is the complement 140 millimeter ball to the same powder blue that we're going to be using as well. So there's going to be a little bit of contrast and complement going on here as well. Some of the other natural products I'm going to use is this 200 millimeter wicker ball. Again, it's essentially a wire frame that's been covered in natural material, again, that has a little bit of a glitter that's applied to it. And I'm going to use the corresponding smaller ball, just again for some size variation, depth perception, and so on. And then the other item I'm going to be using is this metal star that's been wrapped with a little bit of rope material and that same glitter. And I think stars are a beautiful thing to work with at Christmas time, always to remember the North Star, and during the holiday as well. So, and then of course I want to showcase some of the beautiful ribbons that we're going to be using. I have a natural or a neutral colored gold ribbon, soft gold. And actually, if you can see the texture running through this, there is a little bit of a design. The way this ribbon is actually woven, it's actually woven to replicate or look like silk. You can actually see the striads in it, which are all the different lines that are running through this. But again, it's an artificial silk. And I'm also going to be using this blue or soft blue striped ribbon. Again, we're going to be blending our colors, the soft golds, the platinums, again. And I'm also going to be using this 4-inch velvet ribbon that has a sort of damask embossing running through that. I don't know if you can see that print very well, but it really is a beautiful traditional damask pattern. So we're going to get back to our garland. Oh, and I'm also going to use some floral material. We're going to be using this artificial magnolia leaf, again, bringing in the neutral colors. We're going to be accenting that with a pop of that soft blue with our beautiful velvet poinsettia. I love these poinsettias because there's actually a beautiful combination of glittered and bead balls that are running at the very center, the stamen of the actual flower itself. And one of the other materials I'm going to be using is this mistletoe branch. It's got a little bit of a flocking on it. It has a little bit of a glitter just sort of sprinkled on it. But again, with that flocking, it just looks like natural mistletoe with the pretty little berries on it. So these are the items I'm going to be using today. And as I've already done, I hope you've seen me fluff the garland. I'm going to add another garland to the actual body of this base, and I'm going to add this ruscus garland. This has a beautiful mixture of different glittered palm leaves, just a soft dusting of glitter, the natural pine cones that are flocked. There's a beautiful base of rustic looking pine and another glittered pine running through this. So this is just jam-packed and filled with all kinds of interesting materials. So I'm going to take this garland, which works well on its own, but I'm going to add it to our base that's actually attached to the mantle.
Brenda Marcus says, hi, Michael.
Hello there, how are you? Good to see you. All right, I'm going to take this garland and I'm just going to sort of loosely lay that on top of our garland already. And one of the other things I did want to mention is that the garland already, I went ahead and anchored it to the actual mantle. And I went ahead and left the wire exposed so you can see that I actually attached it, so I anchored it to, toggled it back to the actual mantelpiece itself. I took some of our fabric covered wires and I connected two together and I ran it through the very front and back of the actual mantelpiece. Just to prevent the actual garland from falling forward and just falling off. You don't want that to happen. But I'm going to take the garland that I have already, and as I said, I placed it just over our Rutland garland, and I'm going to anchor this too just with a couple of twists. I'm just going to loosely, because you want to show this off. This garland is just so pretty. And again, it gives the actual base a little extra volume. Makes our garland look a little bit more interesting. So I'm just attaching that too with some extra wire. And already that gives our garland just a little bit more volume, as you can see. Now what I've done to one side, I'm going to do to the other. So let me grab the other piece. Now this garland is an actual 6-foot garland, but as you can see, when I'm attaching it to our 9-foot garland, and because I'm using it in such a way that creates the volume, we lose our length. So I'm going to take two 6-foot sections and I'm just going to, again, add this to the other side. And we'll fluff that on.
Carlos, line 1. Carlos, line 1.
Just with a couple of twists, just to make sure that it's secure. And I do like to see the garland sort of rolling through, if that makes any sense. Again, it creates the impression of there being a lot more volume and bounce happening, movement to the actual garland. So here we are at our second level. I like to pull that forward a little bit. So here we are. As you can see, it probably doesn't make any sense right now, but we like to do things in layers. So we have one layer with our base, our second layer with our secondary garland, which would be the rustic glittered garland. So you have two layers happening here already. Now the third layer that I'm going to add at this point is going to be our velvet ribbon. But
Tammy says good morning.
good morning, Tammy.
And Brenda Marquez loves the ribbon.
Ah, we have beautiful ribbons here, as you know. So I like to start from one end of the garland and just run all the way through. So I'm going to actually use the actual pine needles to twist that in. Give it a couple of good twists and it's anchored. It's not going anywhere. If I wanted to, I could always secure that with extra wire or cable ties, but I don't think we need to do that, quite honestly. With all the other things that we're going to be adding, there's no risk of the ribbon actually coming out. And again, I just like to give the impression of the ribbon just sort of unraveling and rolling through. So I just find a little anchor point and just twist that in, not too tight. And again, creating the illusion of a little depth. And as you can see, there's quite a few inches there in terms of the way I'm placing the ribbon through. If I actually pull that through, that's probably about 24 inches there. It doesn't have to be exactly. Some of them are going to be shorter, longer than others. But again, the garland is just sort of acting as a sort of third garland, just sort of running through or dancing through our mantelpiece already. And again, there is no rhyme or reason as to how I'm actually placing the ribbon through.
Janet is watching from Dubai.
Oh, wow. Hello, Janet. Hello, Janet. Welcome. And again, I'm just sort of placing that through. And we'll have time to make a few adjustments later. But I'm just anchoring the velvet ribbon through. The wire on this is just so nice and stiff, and it actually holds its shape. This is a nice heavy velvet ribbon, and the wire actually helps. As you can see, you can create all kinds of interesting movement running through.
Everyone is saying it's looking beautiful already.
All right, thank you very much. All right, so this would be our next layer. And I'm going to take our little bit of excess ribbon. I'm going to cut that off, and I'm going to do a little bit of a fishtail just to finish off that edge. And I'm just sort of going to roll it back into itself. And I'm going to pull that through so it just sort of dangles off the edge there. So again, as you can see, we do everything in layers, and here is a good example of that happening.
And Michael, someone's asking, can we order online?
Of course, yes. All of these products are available online, and everything should be linked, I believe, to the presentation as it's happening now, live. The next thing I'm going to add, of course, is the nice mistletoe that I spoke to you and described to you earlier. Again, just to add some texture. I wanted to pick up on a little bit of the rustic texture that's running through our garland that I placed through already. So I'm just going to basically randomly poke this through. And again, using our pine branches, tie that in. And as you can see, the mistletoe is on a wire. Oop. I'm going to remove these little tags. And I'm just going to randomly poke those through. I'm going to actually lay those through the garland, And remember, as I said, it's a matter of shaping. You want to shape all your material. You just don't want to lay the material and hide it in there. You really want to show that off. So while I may be poking it in one direction, once it's anchored, I actually kind of pull it out and then pull it back towards the arrangement that I'm working on already, just to give it some visual interest. You want it to make it look as if these things are alive and are actually some way, somehow growing into the actual garland itself. You need to breathe a little life into the arrangements that we're building here. And again, as I said, I'm poking it through just very randomly. And these make little pretty accent pieces. Just finding a couple of branches and loosely anchoring those in, pulling that out a little bit just to create a little extra volume, making the garland look even bigger than what it actually is. I'm going to go to the right here. Again, just sort of laying that through. Just for a little added security, tie it all in. And remember, all of these branches, while they come out of the box, come out straight and tall and don't have any shape or body to them. Don't be afraid to play with them and give them a little extra body. Makes them look a little bit more interesting. And again, this piece is just dangling off to the right, but I want him to poke out. I want to make his little presence known. And again, you can see him just sort of poking through there. And I'm going to add one more piece to the left side of the garland. How's it looking already, guys? And again, I'm just showing you different stages here. Depending on what your decor needs may be, one might just want to leave the garland looking like this, but we're going to continue adding more. One of the things we like to do at CRAFTEX is just show off all the product that we have. I'm going to bring in our blue 200 millimeter balls. These.
Michelle Min says stunning.
Oh, thank you, Michelle.
And everyone says it's beautiful.
Thank you.
Come on, everyone shop. Shop, shop, shop.
This again is our powder blue ball. This is the 200 millimeter. It's already pre-wired, comes pre-wired with the ribbon or the wire running right through it. Which is a great tool, so you don't have to stop and wire every single piece that you're going to be using. So this makes it really easy and makes things go by really quickly. So again, I'm just going to sort of run that through, find a good anchoring spot. Couple of good twists, and the ball is on there. It's not coming out unless you pull it out. Again, I'm going to add another one. And when it comes to actually anchoring things into the garland itself, of course I do like to anchor into the actual framework of the garland. And then there are some things that I like to attach to the actual limbs of the garland as well. So I've got 3 of these balls, and I'm just sort of sporadically running them through for visual balance.
Everyone is loving the colors, Michael.
All right. Well, these colors are beautiful. I love the neutral palette with just a little bit of extra color. One of the other things I want to use is this beautiful magnolia leaf that we showed you earlier. There's just a little bit of glitter running through here. The actual body of the leaf itself has a little bit of a shimmer or sheen, but I think the glitter is just enough. And again, I'm just going to poke that through. And again, as I said, just because I poked it through, I want that to sort of come through and shine for us. So giving it a little extra body so you can see that. Again, always shape your leaves. I always shape them before I put them and insert them into the garlands and things that I'm usually building.
Magda says, Michael, I love your decorations.
Oh, thank you, Magda. Thank you very much. Again, just finding a couple of pine needle branches, just making a couple of simple twists, and it's on there. It's not coming out. But as I said, I like to pull these pretty leaves and branches out, these little curlicues. I'm not going to add too many of these, probably maybe 4 of these, just for some accents.
Joanne says, I love the fullness of that garland.
Thank you, Joanne. Thank you. And I'm going to add one to the right.
Yolanda saying hello from Colombia.
Colombia, wow. Buenos dias, Colombia. My Spanish is not that great, but I'm learning. I'm doing well, Cher. How are you doing?
I'm well. Let's check on you.
Ah, thank you for checking.
Hey. Tell everybody hello for me.
Again, this is the other item that I'm going to be using. It's our natural or wicker ball here that's glittered. And I love this item. I think this is pretty. I think it works well with what we're doing. All right, let me grab a few more of these. I like.
Okay, so Davey says, Michael, would you be making any more videos?
Oh yes, we have several videos planned throughout the season. So this is just one of many. Tina will be presenting quite a few videos herself. I think on Friday she's going to be doing a presentation on how to make door swags. So I already did a presentation on how to make a door wreath or a Christmas wreath last week. I think Tina did another video on Friday of last week on how to decorate a Christmas tree. I think she decorated a 7.5 foot slim tree. And we're just continuing the series throughout the season. While we're concentrating on a lot of Christmas, I think we'll probably be adding a lot of seasonal things in terms of fall merchandise, maybe some fall centerpieces, fall swags, garlands, and so on. But the Christmas showroom is open, and we're sort of hot and heavy already with all kinds of custom work for people too. So this is keeping us very busy. One of the other items I'm going to add is our hemp ball. It's basically covered in just a natural rope material, slightly glittered. So I'm just going to add this in for a little bit of color and texture.
Chili 9-1, Chili 9-1.
And as you can see, some of these things I'm actually adding to the exterior of the actual garland itself, not necessarily anchoring to the spine of the actual piece itself. I'm going to start using some of our little glittered stars. Again, this is a metal frame, but again, the actual points of the star are wrapped in that natural hemp material with just a little, enough glitter, just for some extra sparkle.
Asking Michael,
Mm-hmm.
if you add on is 3 of each item. Says it's beautiful. She just wants to know, does 3 of each?
You know, this seems to be a recipe that works for us here at CRAFTEX, just for a very basic garland. I like to work with odd numbers. Of course, depending on what your budget might be, you can always add more. You can not add as much. Again, you know, just the density, that really is just up to you. For a lot of people, Christmas is just over the top, and some people just want a very dense garland where you can't really see any of the greenery at all. It's basically just almost a garland of ball and or ornaments and maybe a few floral materials. You know, there's different ways of going about this, but just for a very basic instruction like I'm doing today, I'm just using 3 of everything. Thank you for bringing that up. That's a great question.
Cindy Huckman says, absolutely love this.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much, dear. That's very sweet. And again, not adding to the base, just sort of adding to the exterior of the garland. One of the other things I'm going to add is some of our poinsettias that we've already pre-shaped. Again, it's basically a velvet leaf. Some are heavily glittered, some are not. There's a lot of different movement and texture. You've got a really beautiful stamen here of some pretty little glittered balls and acrylic jeweled balls at the very center there. And this is on a nice stem, so this is it's a nice long stem. You can always cut these if you wanted to. A lot of times I try not to cut the stems if I don't have to, only because if you want to pull those out and reinsert them later into something else or build something else, you can always do that. But I'm going to go ahead and take my wire cutters. I'm not going to cut this. I'm basically just going to anchor or hold on to the actual bottom, and I'm just going to loosely curl those around my wire cutters.
Gail says, beautiful, first time for
Oh wow, Cincinnati, hello there. We're getting people from all over the place. And I'm going to take one of our cable ties, our 8-inch cable ties, zip ties, and you can get these anywhere. I think we get them at Home Depot by the gross, or you can get them at any hardware store for that matter. And it's always great to use the black. I think the black is a good tool to use because it fades into the actual garland if you should accidentally forget to cut them off. No reason to actually cut every single one because, as I said, they fade in. So I'm just going to basically poke these through. And the point that I actually used to curl in the actual stem of the poinsettia stem, I'm going to use that as my anchor point to slip the cable tie through. And just a little pull, and it's on there. And I'm giving this a little extra shape as well, pulling that forward so it's not just sitting on the garland, it's actually in the garland, and the flower has the impression of almost floating, bouncing off the garland, the mantelpiece itself. So again, just very loosely twisting that around creating that little loop.
Enjoying the show.
Oh.
Ornaments, watching from Nova Scotia.
Nova Scotia, wonderful. Yeah. Thank you.
And from Spring Hill, Tennessee.
Hello, Tennessee.
Xochitl is joining from Guadalajara, Jalisco, Mexico.
Hello, Xochitl. Wow.
In Mexico.
And as I said, I like to pull these forward, show the volume of the pretty poinsettia flower. Now I'm actually going to make a bow. We're going to start off with our bow insertion. I have a couple of pre-made bows already, but I'm going to show you how to make a bow that would be an appropriate size for this garland. So I've already pre-cut my ribbons. These are all 10-yard putouts, and I've gone ahead and pre-cut the ribbons to about 3.33 yards each. So you can actually get 3 sections of ribbons, pre-cut ribbon through your bolts of ribbon to make 3 different bows. So one of the things I like to start off with, I like to pull off just a short section, just beyond my wrist there, and I'm going to take this that has a pattern running over it. I'm going to basically crimp this. I want that pattern to be on top. So I'm going to make one big loop. And I always show people if I can stretch my hand and forefinger or pinky finger through the actual center, there's a little bit of room there, playroom. This is going to be the center of my bow, the loop here. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to do a little half twist because I want to keep that pattern, that striped pattern running through. I go ahead and stretch that out. So it's not an exact measurement, but it's pretty close to. You can play with that. As you can see, there's room there. I haven't really twisted it or secured it in any way. So it's not written in stone. But again, that's my second loop. I'm going to go ahead and do a second twist under that. I'm going to pull that up. And again, as you can see, I can play with that. I can tighten it. I can loosen it. But I'm going to, again, that's pretty close. And I'm going to do a fourth loop here. And I'm going to finish that off there. So our loops are made, our ribbons, our bows are made in layers. So while I'm still holding on to this, I want to point out that I'm not really clamping onto the very center of this. I have shown people how to make bows in the past to the point where I've actually seen people that are shaking, and because they're holding on to that so hard and so firmly, you can see the veins popping out of their arms. There's no really reason to do that. You don't want to hurt yourself when you're doing this. I'm basically just holding on to the very center with my fingers here. I've got 3 fingers. I've got my thumb in the middle, and I've got my pointer or index finger just playing off of the very back of it. So this is what's holding the ribbon together. But again, with some practice, I've been doing this for many years, but with some practice, you can do this. So I'm going to take the next layer. I'm going to give you again just a little bit of a tail here. And while this ribbon doesn't have a pattern on it, and I still like to twist onto the ribbon because I find that if I twist onto it, it gives it a little extra body into the loop of the bow, that when it comes to shaping the bow at the very end, that actually helps. It helps me, actually. So I'm going to make 3 loops here. And as you can see, when I kind of lay that out, when I lay that out, I have 2 layers here already. These loops are quite large, but these loops are actually smaller than my second layer. So you can see they're just slightly larger than the first loops that I started with. So again, I'm going to do a half twist on that end, and now I'm going to add my 3rd layer, which is the same ribbon that I'm running through the actual garland already. It's going to help tie all that together. So again, with my short piece, I'm going to lay that against that second layer of loops, again, which is just a little bit longer, just slightly longer than the one that I finished off with. And I'm going to add 2 more loops. And you know, the loops get progressively larger as you run through. Now the same cable ties or zip ties that I showed you earlier, I'm going to run that through the very center of my bow. I'm going to pull on that. I'm actually going to pull on that and cut it. I'm going to take a wire, one of our coated wires. These are actually covered in fabric. I like working with this wire because it doesn't hurt your hands like the raw wire, the florist wire does. And it's great for anchoring on garlands like this onto pieces of people's furniture, onto railings, staircase railings. You don't damage the wood or scratch the wood either.
That's KV's question, Michael.
Mm-hmm.
What can you use to anchor the garland if it gets too heavy?
Well, again, depending on what you're using to, or where you're going to be using your garland. As I said, this particular garland, we've actually anchored it to the actual mantle itself. We've wired it onto, so it's actually toggled back. It will not move. It will not come forward. You can see it sort of falling or cascading forward, but it is anchored on there with just wire.
You can also use those command hooks.
Yes, the command hooks are a great thing to use. I always tell people that if you're going to use the command hooks, you need to have you need to allow some time for some pre-anchoring of the actual hooks themselves. In my experience, you can't just apply the anchors with the adhesive onto your mantle or wherever you plan on using or hanging or suspending things from. I think you need at least 24 to 48 hours to allow that anchor to set. So this is the actual bow. I'm going to go ahead and, I don't know if you can see that, our bow, our finished bow here. So I have 3 of these already. I went ahead and made 2 ahead of time just for for the sake of saving a little time here. So I'm going to anchor this to the actual garland. So I'm going to anchor 3 of these in total. So here I like to actually anchor to the actual base or the spinal dorsal.
Nelson, line 1. Nelson, customer assistance, line 1.
So with a couple of good twists, now it's just a matter of manipulating the loops, rounding out all the loops. I'm going to fishtail the ends here just to sort of finish the ribbon off, give it a little bit more of a tailored edge. I'm going to roll that back into itself, and then I'm going to pull it out so it just sort of dangles very loosely. And this is just something that we like to do here at CRAFTEX, you know, especially if we have the time. I think it's just a little added extra touch. Just cutting a V into the very bottom of the, or the end of the tail sections. Because this ribbon is just so pretty, and I think it just looks so pretty and dainty when it's just sort of dangling or hanging off the edges like that. And you can play with that and manipulate that any way you like. So that's just one bow. I'm going to add the other bow that I've pre-tied for you. I'm going to add one to the very center here, or what I call visual center. It may not be exact center, but it's pretty close to center. Just sort of adding that in, and again just adding to the actual spine of the mantelpiece or the garland. And again just fluffing.
Debbie says my favorite designer.
Oh my goodness. Thank you, Debbie. You were so sweet.
Everyone is saying it's gorgeous, it's beautiful. They love the bling on the poinsettias and on the stems.
Well, the product that we have to work here, that we actually use to work with here at CRAFTEX is actually gorgeous product. I think when anybody has this product in their hands, there's hardly anything that you can do to not make it look beautiful. But thank you, I appreciate that. Very kind. So I'm going to add one more bow. And as I said, I like to add the ribbons to the actual spine of the mantelpiece. I think we've already pre-cut or pre-finished the tail sections of the ribbon here.
Say hi to Jolene, Michael.
Hello.
UK.
Oh wow, hello there, Jolene. How are you?
Beautiful and full.
Thank you. Well, Jolene, while it may be full now, I'm going to add a few more pieces just to give it a little bit more density, but not too much more. I'm just going to add a few more balls just so you can see how that works. But you know, the question that I was asked earlier about adding or using everything in multiples of 3, or 3 of this, 3 of that, and so on, as you can see, the actual body of the garland has filled up quite nicely. So I'm going to add a few more balls, This is an actual soft gold or champagne colored ball in the 140 millimeter. And again, this is pre-wired, which makes it easy to use and insert into the actual piece itself. So this, as I said earlier, I'm not attaching this to the spine. I'm just attaching these to the outer limbs of the garland of the pine branches. And while I'm doing this, I'm continually and forever going back and readjusting and shaping certain flowers here and there, because there's always a little bit of movement that seems to occur or happen. So again, asymmetrical placement of all the different ornaments and balls, just for visual balance. And I know that there are those individuals that have to have everything symmetrically placed and symmetrically balanced, which is fine, which is great. But I think, in my personal opinion, the asymmetry, I think, is just the way to go. It's the way to do things, and especially when you're trying to showcase the product and make things look a little bit more interesting. I think the asymmetry is the way to go. So I think, as I said earlier, I'm tying these in, anchoring in these balls into the outer, onto the outer parts of the wreath or the garland itself. So you have a little bit more play there.
Everyone is happy that we're doing the live shows, live events.
Well, quite honestly, we have been wanting to do this for a long time, and I'm glad we're actually doing this now. So I think that all in all, this is a good thing for everybody involved. So
Right. Everyone is loving the natural elements with the glitz.
thank you. Kind of lost that one there. Now, if you wanted to take this even a step further, and of course this is all artistic choice on your behalf as the client, you know, this is a great starting off point to actually order something along these lines. But if you had personal ornaments and vintage ornaments or heirloom ornaments of your own that you wanted to showcase in something like this, you know, I could always imagine, you know, you out of your own collection adding a few extra keepsake ornaments just sort of dangling off the body of this, just to give it more of a personal touch that way. So again, this is what we would do here at CRAFTEX, and this is how we actually build and construct our garlands. And if you want something customized for yourself, we're always happy to help you either make your choices or put something together for you, an actual commission piece. So this is something that we do, and we're always happy to help you with. Are there any questions? Does anyone have any other comments or anything that they'd like to ask while I'm here?
Everyone says it's beautiful, gorgeous. They love, like I said before, the natural elements tucked in with the glitz. It is stunning and classy.
All
so
right.
elegant.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Perfect.
All right. Thank you, and thank you for visiting with us again and taking part in CRAFTEX Live for Facebook.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. Bye-bye.